If the definition of trust is feeling safe when vulnerable, let's start here. By finding the inner confidence to self-soothe and be comfortable with the uncomfortable, you are going to learn to trust your own thoughts and feelings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are listening, wherever you are listening, welcome to our podcast, We Are All Fine, Flawed, Insecure, Nervous and Emotional. I'm Heidi, counsellor, psychotherapist, specialising in working with young people and young adults. I'm here, it's a brand new week, so let's do something worthwhile with our time together. Welcome to WAF. Do you get it? We're all fine. From my counselling years to your listening ears, today is episode 5. Look out for 2 new parts of the show. One is called Therapy Thoughts. That's a bite-sized therapy thought from my years of being a counsellor that I think are going to be helpful for you. And the other, well, you're going to become more involved in that one. It's called A Question for a Counsellor. I want to answer as many of your questions as I can about anything to do with your mental well-being and growing up as a young person or a young adult. You can email me, Heidi, weareallfine@gmail.com with your questions, and I promise you I'll answer as many as I can. But now it's time for a pause. Take a few moments to feel heard, validated, and know that however horrible you feel right now, for whatever reason, you are here, you are doing your best, and you will be okay. I have had a hard time trusting my own thoughts and feelings recently, and I've also been hearing many of my clients saying something similar to me, which got me thinking, if we don't trust ourselves, are we really able to trust others? And without trust, what have we got left? Trust is such a big part of being human and connecting to others in a healthy and respectful way. Think of it like glue. It's so much about how we communicate, make the right decisions, being social, accepting of others, and making and building meaningful relationships. It's really important to have trust. The definition of trust is feeling safe when vulnerable. Let's hold that for a minute. Feeling safe when vulnerable. You may hear the word vulnerable and shudder, as it's usually a state of feeling that we try and avoid. But if you look at that definition a little bit more closely, it actually highlights the importance of trust in our worlds. We need it to feel safe. That makes total sense. As people who are all fine, flawed, insecure, nervous and emotional, we really need something to help us feel as physically and mentally and as safe as we can. That, my lovely listeners, is trust. We are all striving to feel safe. The word trust can feel scary for many, me included, and when we think of it, we attach it to other people, don't we? Trusting our friends, our parents, our family. I'm guessing you've all had a good idea of how it feels when you do trust people. You will feel held, understood, respected and safe. These are all lovely feelings. I'm thinking of the few people in my life I would turn to as I'm chatting to you now. You know, the people that I know I could say whatever I wanted, how I felt, what I did, that they would have my back, they wouldn't judge me, and they'd give me the support and encouragement I need. These few people would listen, they would be patient, and they would be really genuine and honest with me. These are the people I will ask about any decisions I might have to make, or I'll tell them about the epic failures I've had or the horrible things I may have just done. I do this because they make me feel safe. I take my stuff to them because they are trusted. Think now for a second who's in your trust team. Who can have your back or be in your corner the way I've just described those few friends I've got? You might go straight to your team members, rattle them all off. You might struggle to think about anybody, or you might be remembering members of your trust team that you've lost along the way. Whatever your reaction was to thinking about your trust team there, I guess there'll be a mixture of feelings that might be coming up for you. The word trust for you may feel spiky and triggering, especially if you've been rejected or let down, betrayed in any way, or hurt by others in your world. Many of you would have had that experience. In fact, I would say the majority of you listening would have had your trust destroyed by the words and behaviours of others. When the trust goes, you are going to welcome in feelings of anger, disappointment, or shame. All completely normal feelings that blow us up when we lose that trust. Now, trust is tricky. We know it's important. It's almost like the glue, isn't it? It keeps us all together, like I've said. But guess what? You cannot see it. You cannot manufacture it. You cannot fake it. And you cannot hide from it. But, okay, big but here, you can feel it when it's not there. If you've had that trust ripped away from you by someone you cared for, loved, admired, or respected, you're going to be carrying around emotional scars. These may have long-lasting psychological impacts on you. A reminder from the past, maybe, that could evoke pain or discomfort when you're thinking about it. Like trust, you cannot see those emotional scars on your body, but like trust, you can feel them. What I find when I counsel young people who've had the trust ripped out of them, they can't wrap their heads around why. They do not understand why somebody would hurt them that way. If you would not deliberately hurt, betray, or lie to somebody, for example, it's really hard to understand why somebody would do that to you. I regularly work with young people who've got really low self-esteem or a sense of not feeling worthful. We'll talk way more about that in next week's episode. But when that kind of person comes into my counselling room, I guarantee you, if I give them the right counselling support and encouragement, I will nearly always be told about an experience they have had where they've lost trust in someone, where they've literally had their trust guts ripped out. A partner going behind your back, a best friend slagging you off when you weren't there, friends turning into enemies, turning into bullies. That's one of the worst betrayals of trust. A friend sharing your secrets, a partner sharing your images, and a parent leaving the family unit. There are just hundreds of ways you can have the trust taken away. And the one thing we all do when this happens is question ourselves first. Why me? What did I do wrong for that to happen to me? We look inwards. We slam the door on reality and search inside ourselves for the answers to make sense of the betrayal and try to manage the devastation that we're left with. This will hammer away at your self-esteem, I guarantee you. If you're lucky, this might just happen 1 or 2 times in your life, maybe a few so far, but it's likely you've had this happen to you many times for many reasons. All the while, your self-esteem gets a massive hit and trust becomes so scarce to you in your world that you struggle to manage that. Sound familiar? Yeah, to me too. My dad rejected me very early on in life. I am 3, my sister was 1, and he had an affair and left my mum for another woman. Slowly but surely, as his new family grew, he went on to have 4 more daughters. His connection with me didn't, and he left my life. This was my first experience of betrayal and rejection. And guess what happened? The dad-shaped hole developed. If he doesn't want me, then no one else will. And I have spent years trying to fill that space with all the wrong people and for all the wrong reasons. I basically made it my fault and not his. We all do something similar. I can stand out of this now and see the emotional scar that it's left, the trauma that it represented to me, but I have gone some way to heal. When you cut your skin or damage it in any way, it never fully heals back to 100%. It only heals back to about 80%. And that's what I think it's like with trauma or emotional scarring. Yes, my dad's gone. Yes, it was horrific. And on days, honestly, it hurts like mad. But I have healed. But give yourself a bit of credit here. So remember this. Know that somewhere, if you've got a person-shaped hole like me, that will heal too. And it might not go back to 100% and that scar might remain, but there's so much you can do for that wound, I promise. Let's take a breath at this point for our first therapy thought. The reason you have a hard time trusting your intuition is because you are still convinced that some outside person or authority still knows you better than you. You know you better than anyone else in the world. Trust yourself. You are the only one you are guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with. Why do some people betray our trust then? Oh, there are many reasons for this. Some people simply just put themselves first. Their own needs and desires take priority over anything else. So their decisions and choices are made from that reference point. They might be behaving this way through fear. They would rather hurt you than themselves, so doing what they can in their minds to avoid any discomfort or vulnerability, they're going to hurt you over them. Bullies bully as they are trying to deflect from their own pain, so rather than feel it themselves, they'll project it onto you. It's a bit like a tug of war with a bully. They're walking around just asking somebody, just tempting somebody to take the other end of the rope. This push-pull, this war that goes on between them. That's what bullies are trying to do. They're trying to give you the pain that they can't deal with or process themselves. Maybe the person who hurt you may not have the same values as you. They may see things differently to you and will struggle to comprehend a world outside of their own. Hurt people hurt people. My counselling experience has taught me that yes, there are bad people out there, selfish to the core, with a total lack of self-awareness or respect for other people, but good people do bad things too. What I'm trying to suggest is you may well have been the victim of another person's low self-worth. I think if you allow that possibility in, if it feels appropriate for you, you may then find the space to process your betrayal and get on with your life. When bones break, we set them in a cast and they do heal. When feelings break, we have no such thing, so we try and heal ourselves. That has to start from healing from within. If your trust has been broken and you have struggled because of it, there is only one place to start your healing journey, from inside of you. I'm going to share how to start to trust yourself first. If you don't trust yourself, how can you possibly trust other people? If the definition of trust is feeling safe when vulnerable, let's start here. By finding the inner confidence to self-soothe and be comfortable with the uncomfortable, you are going to learn to trust your own thoughts and feelings. The first thing you may want to try is being compassionate to yourself. Turning the kindness I bet that you've got for others onto yourself is such an important part of this process. You have to be your own best friend first. Treat yourself as you would your friends. If you are using unkind and critical words about your own thoughts, feelings, and accomplishments, how can you trust yourself to make the right decision or say the right things to others? You can't. You will always criticize your own actions, and this will keep you stuck with a massive lack of self-belief. Make a real effort now to listen to the words you are using about yourself. Catch as many as you can and gently challenge them. Are you really that bad of a person? Are your actions or thoughts justified with such harsh words? I bet they're not. Let's pause it there while we go to the next segment of my show called A Question for a Counsellor. Thank you to those of you who have emailed me with either feedback or questions. I really appreciate it. This week I've been asked to answer this. Why don't counsellors give advice? Oof, great question. I'm also a lecturer at a local college and I train counsellors. So this question is often debated in class. Many clients I see, really this will make you laugh, have the impression that I have got my life totally sorted. So therefore that I must have all of this wisdom to help them solve their problems. I absolutely do not have my life sorted. Like you, I am a work in progress. I have loads and loads of faults. I make dozens of mistakes. I do not get it right a lot of the time. So what right do I have to tell you how to live your life when I have exactly the same challenges as you? Counsellors do help their clients solve their problems, but not in the way that you think. Right? The key to any successful therapy outcome is absolutely the counselling relationship. I established this by creating healthy boundaries for us to work within. That's a safe space for the client to feel heard and respected with no form of judgment from me. When the trusting relationship has been established, I then start to blend in a use of skills and theory to facilitate the client to helping them find their own answers to their own difficulties. I do not offer any kind of advice. Trust the client has within them the inner resources they need to make the changes they want. So counsellors do not give you advice. We do not direct you. We do not tell you what to do. Sorry if that's what you were looking for. But don't be put off by that. Be totally put on by that, because you get yourself a decent counsellor, and there are so many out there. The school counsellors, the university counsellors, the college counsellors, they're all doing fantastic jobs of working with people just like you. You get that relationship with that counsellor, and I promise you then that's when you're going to get the client outcomes you'll be looking for. They trust you. This podcast is about trust. They're going to trust that you can find your way forward. I hope that's answered the question, but if not, email me, HeidiWeAreAllFine@gmail.com. Let's get back to the podcast. We were just chatting about how you need to learn to trust yourself before others. And the first thing to start thinking about is the way you talk to yourself, the words you use. You might well be stuck in such a vicious cycle of negative criticism, you won't even be able to recognize it. It's going to have been your normal way, and without actually looking at how you behave, you'll just carry on being cruel and unkind to yourself. Make today the day you start to observe the language you're using in your own mind and start to change it. You are kicking your own head in. And I often say this to my clients. This deliberate form of disapproval from yourself is a form of psychological self-harm. You're hurting yourself all of the time with the words you use about yourself. Stop. Observe the thoughts and change the words. You do not deserve such hypercritical judgments. Nobody does. I promise you that when you start to do this, it will come more naturally to you. You will be tuned into what you say to yourself and you will want to change it. You will want to be kind to yourself, as when you're kind to yourself, it feels really good. It feels like you're in control of your own mind, and with that will come a sense of confidence too. You might also want to forgive yourself a bit more. I wonder how many of you hold on to things you've said or done in the past and ruminate over what a shit person you are. Yes, you may have said or done those things you regret. That's all okay. We all do it, but keeping hold of them and punishing yourself over and over again is not going to help you at all. It keeps you stuck in the shame zone, and in that part of your world there is nothing helpful going on. Letting go of past mistakes, learning from them, and learning to forgive yourself in this process is a healthy thing to be doing. You really cannot go back and change anything you've done. You can only be responsible now for the next moments of your life. Those matter. What's the point of calling the past when it's got nothing new to say to you? Moving into a space where you can trust yourself will take time and commitment. If you have these, you're going to be a more genuine and honest version of yourself. It just takes for you to alter the words you use about yourself, use kinder, softer words in your head, and embracing that vulnerability. You are stronger than you think you are, and anything is possible, anything, if you want to change something. Listening to your inner voice and paying attention to your internal dialogue is the only way out of being self-critical and mean to yourself. Once you're more self-compassionate, you will really be able to build on the strengths you already have. Focus on those strengths. What are they? Think about the strengths you have, and you will have some, I'm absolutely sure. But if you're so used to being in a negative thought pattern, you'll find it really hard to locate them at first. But they are there. Each of you will have many. I'm just giving you a little nudge to consider what they are and how you'd like to develop them further. When we build on our strengths, our inner trust will grow. Changing your language will change the way you think about yourself, and when you hold yourself with more kindness, only good things will happen to your mental health. I really hope you got something from today's episode, something to chew over and think about and take forward when it comes to understanding the importance of trust in our own worlds. Chances are yours has been taken away or shattered, and the emotional scarring from that will be there. Honour it. You cannot rely on others to make you feel comfortable or fulfilled. You can only truly rely on that one person who knows you better than anybody else and build up your inner resilience and confidence. That is you. Learning to trust yourself and your thoughts and your feelings a little bit more will make all the difference. You are here growing up and working out what it is you stand for and what your values are. You're putting boundaries in place. You need trust to do all of that. If you have liked what you've heard today, tell others and share this episode. If you've loved what you've heard, please rate my show. All your feedback, always welcome, and I love hearing from you all. So feel free to reach out and get in touch. Email me, HeidiWeAreAllFine@gmail.com, with any counselling questions you have, and I'm going to try and answer them in next week's episode. Subscribing to my podcast is easy, and you'll find me and We Are All Fine on all the usual social media platforms I'm sure you're familiar with: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. The topic of our conversation next week, episode 6, is low self-esteem. In between a third or half of you have a low one, which means you're going to have a very negative self-image. You are going to have a poor opinion and belief about yourself. Episode 6 does a deeper dive into what causes us to have such low opinions of ourselves. And I know with some of the suggestions I have, you'll have the tools to help increase your self-worth and your self-esteem. Join me as I tell you what the difference is between those two. We are all flawed, insecure, nervous and emotional, but always remember, be yourself, you are no one else. Until next time, you take care. Finally, some important takeaways. The podcast is for informational use only and should not be used as a substitution for professional advice or for personal diagnosis. These opinions are personal and I do not guarantee the accuracy of such opinions or information. I am not intending to create a counselling relationship with you, and you should always consult a qualified mental health professional with any concerns.